If the government were to confiscate gold and silver, to me, this is the perfect vehicle. You come in, and instead of activating eminent domain and knocking on a guy like your door, a guy like you who believes in the NRA and maybe lacks the patriotism the way that it used to be in terms of the government's out for your best interest, they don't have to come knocking on your door and see your NRA sticker. They can just have SLV taken by JP Morgan, the crook who paid him almost $1 billion fine for manipulating metals, and have the largest stockpile of silver sitting right there. And the same thing with GLD, the fourth or fifth largest. Look the world in the face and say, what? Well, we didn't confiscate anything. We just closed these two funds. You're allowed to own physical gold. We just closed a couple of funds and gave everyone how much, whatever their share price was worth. At the end of trading Friday, it's now in their money market today, here Monday. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't break laws. We didn't infringe any liberties. So next. So that's to me, they're bad deals. And I would much rather own the real thing in my possession than have anything to do with those two funds.
Could the US government be setting up the perfect vehicle for gold and silver confiscation? Andy Schectman suggests that major players like Bank of America and JP Morgan are deeply entangled in massive short positions, with Bank of America holding the largest silver short position among the big banks. GLD and SLV, two of the largest gold and silver funds, are controlled by these very institutions, which have been fined nearly $1 billion for market manipulation. Could these funds be a trap for unsuspecting investors? As Warren Buffett begins dumping his shares and silver becomes harder to obtain, Schectman warns of a potential bank bail-in, with Bank of America possibly being sacrificed to fuel fear. How would this impact gold and silver prices, and could the government seize these funds under the guise of maintaining order? What does this mean for your investments?
They have, according to multiple sources, have 1 billion ounces short in silver and out of 35, 40 million ounces short in gold. And Ted Butler talked about that for the last year before he died in the over-the-counter market. And if that's the case, and maybe is this why Warren Buffett is dumping his shares? Are they going to sacrifice one of the big banks at the altar to really freak people out and create a bank bail-in? And I don't know, but I will tell you that Bank of America, according to everything I know, probably has the largest short position in silver of any of the major banks, period. And look what's happening to the ability to get that silver if you have all of these naked shorts and it's disappearing and people are standing for delivery and Warren Buffett's getting out of Dodge. I don't know. Just makes me think that if they're going to sacrifice one of these big commercial banks to really get fear going, it's Bank of America, which who God only knows what will happen to the silver and the gold price at that point. Download the prospectus, read pages 6 through 12 titled Risk Factors, and if you don't sell it, I'll buy you a beer. I mean, really read it. Pages 6 through 12. Now, this is totally from memory, okay? Because I used to talk a lot about GLD. I would give a presentation called GLD or the Real Thing. And in the prospectus, which you can download, first of all, GLD is run by HSBC Bank and JP Morgan and I think BlackRock. SLV is 100% run by JP Morgan and BlackRock. JP Morgan, who paid a $920 million fine to the Justice Department, the largest ever for manipulating the metals market, is the custodian of some of the largest gold and silver trusts on the planet. Seems kind of odd to me. SLV is the largest stockpile of silver in the world, and GLD maybe the fourth or fifth largest of gold. But in the prospectus, it will say things such as the custodian, which would be BlackRock and JP, reserve the right to use subcustodians, but they do not reserve the right to inspect the premises of the subcustodians where the metals are being held. And they are also not responsible for the errors and or omissions of said subcustodians. And they are not responsible if the gold, for example, which is supposed to be London good delivery 400-ounce bars, does not meet that standard. In other words, if they're lead bars painted gold in some vault that they're not even able to go to, they're not responsible for the errors and or omissions. They can't visit the premise, and they're not responsible if those bars are fugazi. And if a fraud is discovered in the trust, they will halt trading and an investigation will ensue. And you will be paid at the end of the investigation at the date that the investigation ensued. So they could say tomorrow, oh shit, there's a problem, stop it, do an investigation. And 3 years from now, when gold's $9,000 an ounce, you get paid at the value today. Read the
And
prospectus.
that's
You
probably their plan,
Yeah,
actually.
well, you
That's
can't
probably
take
what they want to
possession of
know.
it anyway. Only those large institutions that funded it in the form of a basket, which is like, 20 million, 30 million, whatever it is. Average Jane and Joe will never take possession of it. It's a horrible product. They both are. You're taxed at the collectible rate as if you were selling rare collectibles. You'll never take possession of it. It's administered by crooks. And on top of it all, you pay, I think, a 40 basis point management fee. 100 basis points is 1%. So you're paying 0.4% of its value. If it's 100 grand, you're paying $400 a year each year to the custodian. So it's taking away from the performance of the fund. The whole thing sucks. Buy the real thing. And if all hell breaks loose, do you want stock in Kellogg's or boxes of Frosted Flakes? And so, to me, GLD and SLV are really, if nothing else, just a cop out, and it is a poor reflection of. In fact, if the government were to confiscate gold and silver, to me, this is the perfect vehicle. You come in, and instead of activating eminent domain and knocking on a guy like your door, a guy like you who believes in the NRA and maybe lacks the patriotism the way that it used to be in terms of the government's out for your best interest, they don't have to come knocking on your door and see your NRA sticker. They can just have SLV taken by JP Morgan, the crook who paid him almost $1 billion fine for manipulating metals, and have the largest stockpile of silver sitting right there. And the same thing with GLD, the fourth or fifth largest, look the world in the face and say, what? Well, we didn't confiscate anything. We just closed these two funds. You're allowed to own physical gold. We just closed a couple of funds and gave everyone how much, whatever their share price was worth at the end of trading Friday. It's now in their money market today, here Monday. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't break laws. We didn't infringe any liberties. So next. So that's to me, they're bad deals. And I would much rather own the real thing in my possession than have anything to do with those two funds. So instead, just take the ETFs, which they have the right to do anyway. It says in the prospectus. Much easier, much cleaner. We didn't steal anything. We didn't activate eminent domain. We just closed these funds. Okay. So it's almost like, seems too good to be true. You create a couple of funds that all of the investment money gets suckered into, because if you think about it, a financial advisor, if you go to your financial advisor and say, hey man, I got $1 million with you, but I want 700,000 in gold. Well, I can't help you, Chris. Well, I'm going to cash it out then because I want to buy it. No, well, what you should do is buy GLD. You don't want to do that and have a risk and physical possession. And they're going to push you into owning these things because money managers make their commissions by keeping money under management. Now, not everyone would do that, but it would be human nature to find flaw in any argument that would take that kind of percentage of what they're making off of you, fair or not, off their table. And once it moves into physical metal, it's not going back into managed money. So yeah, it just seems too convenient, too obvious to not be noticed by the powers that be.
That's a wrap for today. Let's quickly recap some of the key points. Andy Schectman warns about the massive short positions in silver and gold held by major players like Bank of America and JP Morgan, and how ETFs like GLD and SLV, controlled by these very institutions, could be setting up for a government-led confiscation. With Warren Buffett pulling out and talks of a potential bank bail-in, the future of precious metals and your investments could be at risk. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video insightful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future updates.